Here's something nobody told you about rats. They laugh. Not in a sinister, lurking in the walls, horror movie way. In a genuine, squeaky, can't catch their breath, please do that again way. And the moment scientists discovered this, it quietly, and somewhat awkwardly, changed everything we thought we knew about animal emotion. Because if rats laugh, we have to ask the obvious follow-up question. What else have we been wrong about? First, a quick word about rats. Rats have had an absolutely terrible PR campaign throughout human history. Plague, sewers, that one restaurant. None of it helped. But here's the thing. Rats are, by almost every measure scientists have thrown at them, remarkably intelligent, highly social, deeply emotional animals who form strong bonds, show empathy toward other rats in distress, and, as we're about to find out, apparently find certain things genuinely, measurably hilarious. They have just been doing all of this in a frequency range humans can't hear, which, now that you think about it, is a bit rude of us to have missed. Back in the late 1990s, a neuroscientist named Jaak Panksepp was studying the emotional systems of the brain, not in humans, in rats. Panksepp had a theory that emotions weren't just a human invention, that somewhere deep in the ancient parts of the brain, the circuits for joy, fear, grief, and play were shared across mammals. That evolution had given us all the same emotional hardware, just wrapped in very different bodies. Most of his colleagues thought this was a stretch. Science at the time was not particularly comfortable with the idea that a rat might feel something. The word anthropomorphism, attributing human characteristics to animals, was basically used as an insult in research circles. A way of saying you had gone soft. Panksepp was undeterred. Then his team started tickling rats. What they found was extraordinary. When you tickle a rat, particularly around the nape of the neck, they emit high-frequency ultrasonic chirps at around 50 kilohertz. Way too high for the human ear to detect. You could be sitting in a room full of laughing rats and hear absolutely nothing. But when researchers slowed the recordings down, what they got looked and functioned almost exactly like laughter. And then it got better. The rats actively sought out the tickling. They chased the researchers' hands around the cage. They bounced. They played. They chose to spend time with humans who tickled them over humans who didn't. They were, by any reasonable reading of the behavior, having a great time. Panksepp called it rat laughter. And the scientific community, slowly and somewhat reluctantly, began to agree with him. Though it should be noted that agreeing slowly and reluctantly is basically the scientific community's signature move, so this was actually quite fast by their standards. Not all rats laugh equally. Young rats laugh more than old ones. Rats in good health laugh more than stressed ones. Isolated rats laugh significantly less. Rats that live in social environments with things to do, they laugh the most. Sound familiar? The pattern maps almost perfectly onto human laughter. We laugh more when we're young, healthy, and connected. We laugh less when we're lonely, stressed, or stuck in a meeting that could have been an email. Panksepp began to argue that what he was seeing wasn't just a quirky rat behavior. It was a window into something much older and deeper. A biological system for joy that predates humans by tens of millions of years. He called this system play. One of 7 primary emotional systems he identified in mammalian brains, alongside fear, rage, lust, care, panic, and seeking. All of them ancient, all of them shared, all of them real. Here's why this matters. For most of scientific history, attributing emotions to animals was considered unscientific. Animals behaved in ways that looked like emotion, sure, but they were supposed to just be running programs. Biological machines executing instructions. Panksepp's rat laughter research helped crack that open. Because if rats have a biological system for joy, the question stops being, do animals feel anything, and starts being, how much do they feel, and how similar is it to us? Elephants grieve. Octopuses have personalities. Crows show empathy. Even bees, when given an unexpected reward, show something behaviorally consistent with optimism. We have been sharing this planet with a vast network of feeling creatures and largely assuming we were the only ones doing anything interesting on the inside. This is, to put it gently, a significant misread of the situation. One of the most striking findings from Panksepp's research is what happens to rat laughter when life gets harder. Rats given mild, unpredictable stressors laugh significantly less. They stop seeking out play. They lose interest in things that used to bring them joy. They become, in behavioral terms, something that looks very much like depressed. And when researchers gave these rats antidepressants, the same compounds used in human psychiatry, the laughter came back. The bouncing returned. The chirping at 50 kilohertz returned. The rat, in some meaningful sense, felt better. Panksepp wasn't just studying rats anymore. He was building a case that the neuroscience of human emotion and animal emotion were not two separate fields. They were the same field. Understanding a rat's joy might help us understand and treat human depression. His work has since influenced research into childhood emotional development and psychiatric treatment in ways that are still unfolding. There is one more thing worth mentioning. Rats show empathy. In a now famous experiment, a free rat was placed in an enclosure with another rat trapped in a small restrainer. The free rat could explore, eat, do whatever it liked. Instead, it worked to open the restrainer and free the trapped rat, with no training, no reward, just because another rat was in distress, and rats that had previously been trapped themselves were significantly more likely to help. They had been there. They responded accordingly. That is not a machine running a program. That is something that remembers what it felt like to be stuck and acts on that memory to help someone else. Jaak Panksepp died in 2017. He spent the last decades of his career arguing that animals feel, really feel, not as a metaphor, but as a biological reality with measurable neural correlates and evolutionary roots stretching back further than our species has existed. He was right. And somewhere right now, in a warm corner of a cage, a rat is bouncing after a researcher's hand, chirping at 50 kilohertz, waiting to be tickled again, making sounds nobody can hear. Sounds that, if you could slow them down and listen, would be unmistakably, undeniably laughter. So here's the takeaway. The next time someone calls you a rat, maybe take it as a compliment. Rats are empathetic, emotionally complex, deeply social creatures who laugh when they're happy and grieve when they're not. Most of us are doing well to manage one of those on a Tuesday. And if this video made you laugh, even slightly, even internally, even at a frequency no one else could hear, then you and a rat somewhere have more in common than you thought, which is either comforting or deeply unsettling, depending entirely on your relationship with rats. If it's the former, subscribe. We do this every week. If it's the latter, subscribe anyway. Maybe we'll change your mind. Hit the bell, tell a friend, or tell a rat. At this point, they might honestly be a better audience than most.